The stars above Virulent Prime shimmered like soft diamonds, calm and silent, hiding the truth of the war that burned just beyond the edge of the galaxy. The Virulent High Council stood gathered inside the crystal dome, a massive glowing structure made of transparent alloy that showed the full sky. Elder Yavina stood in the center, her thin silver arms trembling as she placed her hand on the ancient console. Behind her, the council's advisors whispered nervously. Every signal they had sent to nearby systems for aid had been ignored. Worlds that once promised help were now dark. The enemy, the biomech swarm known as the Zoroquas, spreading too fast. Every hour, another colony went silent. Every day, another system fell. The war was not just being lost, it was being erased. So Elder Yavina did the only thing left. She activated the last light beacon, a forbidden communication device that reached across the stars, past council space, into uncharted sectors. Had one message, one plea, one call to any warrior still willing. Please come, our light is dying. The beacon sent the signal in hundreds of languages, wrapped in hope, shaped in peace. But space does not care about the intentions of the sender. The message did not reach noble defenders or ancient protectors of light. It drifted past forgotten systems, through collapsed wormholes, through wrecked battlefields from wars long past. And there, near the edge of known space on, a world called Earth, it was heard. Earth hadn't replied to a galactic call in almost 400 years. Most species believed it was dead. A death world, abandoned after humanity's final war, where nothing lived except monsters and storms. The Union had sealed Earth off, erased its records, deleted it from maps. But Earth was not dead. It simply been waiting. Beneath the surface, deep inside steel bunkers hidden under mountains, old machines came online. Ancient satellites blinked and turned to face the stars. On the dark side of Earth's moon, a massive ship began to awaken. It was called Black Star Reborna, legendary Ark-class warcruiser. Built for the last Earth war, powered by engines banned across the galaxy. And when the message reached its command system, the response wasn't diplomatic. There was no question, no hesitation. Earth didn't ask who sent the message. Earth didn't care. It simply launched the fleet. Within days, old warships lifted from oceans, deserts, ice. The ground trembled as power returned to long silent fusion drives. Each ship carried only a small crew, not because Earth had no more people, but because only a few were needed. They were the ones born for war. Trained not in peace academies, but in fire. Their names were never shared, their records erased. They had no medals, no flags, just numbers. And when the fleet left Earth's orbit, it did so without noise. No lights, no transmissions, only silence. They followed the beacon's signal through dead space, traveling in a formation so old, even the galaxy had forgotten it. They didn't come to help, they came to fight. And behind them, the stars whispered warnings the galaxy had stopped listening to long ago. Do not wake the humans. Do not call the death world. Back on Virulent Prime, the council waited. Days passed with no reply. Elder Yavina began to fear the signal had failed, or worse, it had reached the wrong kind of ears. Then on the 7th rotation, the skies shifted. The outer defense satellites, long silent, detected something massive emerging from uncharted space. 47 ships. All black, no Union markings, no known designs, silent, cold, moving in perfect formation. The Virulent defense AI panicked. It sounded alarms. It triggered planetary shields. But the fleet did not fire, it simply stopped. Then one ship, the largest, moved forward. Its name was marked in Old Earth script, Black Star Reborn. Elder Yavina stared at it through the domes. Crystal windows. Her voice shook. Who are they? She asked. No one answered, because no one knew. Then a message came through, not on the official frequencies, not through Union channels, but straight into the local military command line. It was a voice deep, human, emotionless. Yes. Received. We are here. Stand aside. The Virellans. Unsure whether to fear or welcome these strangers, watched as the Black Star descended. No fanfare, no speeches. It's just a drop shuttle that landed outside the capital without clearance. It was shaped like a blade, black as night. And from it, 5 figures stepped out. Humans, not diplomats. It's not officials. Soldiers, their armor was scarred, dark, heavier than anything the Virulons had ever seen. Their faces were hidden behind helms that didn't glow, didn't shine, just stared. One of them, taller than the rest, stepped forward. His name was never given. He only spoke once. "Where's the fight?" The Virellan commander, a small-boned officer named Releth, trembled. As she pointed toward the north, where the Zorak swarm had begun devouring the outer cities, the human nodded once, then turned away. No plans. It's just action. Within hours, the rest of the fleet moved. Dropships descended silently. Ground units deployed. Artillery emerged from their ships like unfolding giants. But the humans did not speak to the civilians. They did not offer comfort. They moved through the city like shadows of an older war. And when the Zorak came, they finally acted. The enemy arrived in the form of a wave-living metal, screaming mouths, red eyes glowing with hunger. The Virulons had lost every battle against them. They expected another massacre, but this time they weren't alone. The humans opened fire, not with energy beams or soft precision weapons, but with railguns that cracked the sky, cannons that launched antimatter payloads, drones that swarmed the Zorak with surgical brutality. The human infantry moved like beasts, never stopping, never slowing, never falling back. And for the first time in years, the Zorak screamed. Not in rage, but in fear. One Virellan soldier watched as a single human tore through 6 enemies, using nothing but a blade made of solid plasma. He didn't celebrate. He didn't speak. He simply moved to the next target. By the time the battle ended, the Virulon capital was still standing, not untouched, but defended. The people stood in stunned silence, watching smoke rise, and the humans. They were already gone heading to the next front. Elder, Adivana stood before her broken city and whispered the truth aloud. We asked for heroes, but we called Deathworlders instead. Far above the planet, inside the Black Star Reborn, the human commander stood alone in the command bridge, staring at the stars. He tapped a console, activating a new signal, not to Earth, not to allies, but to the enemy. It read, "You woke us. You'll regret it." And across the void, galaxy began to tremble, because Earth was awake, and it wasn't done yet. The Black Star Reborn drifted high above Virulon Prime like a silent predator, its obsidian hull absorbing the light from the twin suns. Around it moved 46 other warships, each one built from ancient Earth steel and layered with generations of weapons no one in the galaxy had seen for over 300 years. There were no glowing banners, no peaceful signals, no symphony of arrival. These ships did not come to be seen. They came to end a war. Inside the Virulon High Command bunker, screens flickered with tension. Every orbit scan showed the human fleet holding position, unmoving, unresponsive to Union clearance codes. Admiral Kevinel, a creature of feathers, and light paced in front of the display wall, his usually calm feathers frayed with fear. They aren't responding. They aren't even acknowledging us. His aide, a young blue-scaled officer named Tarlin, whispered nervously, "They don't." "Need to, sir. They've already landed, and they won." Kevinel stopped. "Yes," he said slowly, "they did." That was the problem. Down on the surface, the battlefield outside Kuran City still smoldered. Black smoke curled from the shattered husks of Zorak machines. The alien swarm had always overwhelmed by sheer numbers, millions of self-replicating biomechs that swarmed like locusts. But today, for the first time in this long war, they had lost ground. No, they'd been annihilated. Virulon soldiers walked cautiously among the ruins, stunned, not just by the damage, but by the way it was done. There were no high orbital strikes, no delicate maneuvers, just brute, calculated violence. Shells that tore through armored cores. shock cannons that melted circuitry, traps so simple and brutal they made the virulence flinch, spikes, firewalls, toxic mist, and at the center of it all had been the humans. Not hundreds, just 57. Of them they don't fight like us, whispered a Virulon sergeant. No, replied his medic. They fight like they don't expect to come back. Back in orbit, Union diplomatic envoy finally arrived. 3 Silver Star cruisers escorted by a cloud of light-armed security ships. They approached carefully, broadcasting peaceful intent, full protocol, coded credentials. The human fleet didn't reply. Instead, the forward batteries of the Black Star Reborn rotated slowly toward the Union ships. No, Lacon. No fire. Just a reminder, we see you. The Union ships stopped their approach immediately, inside the flagship Harmony's path. Ambassador Trelwyn, a tall, gold-robed diplomat of the Alari species, turned to his crew in disbelief. They won't even open a channel. Do they think we're the enemy? Captain Junessa, a Terran-born exile now in Union service, shook her head. No, they don't think that. She looked at the silhouette of the Black Star Reborn on the screen, dark and silent. They just don't care. On the surface, Maya, the field commander of Earth's strike team, stood over a ruined Zorak warbeast, her helmet under one arm. Her face was streaked with blood and ash, her eyes sharp, unreadable. Behind her, a team of Virulon scouts approached nervously. One of them, a wide-eyed lieutenant named Saren, stepped forward. You're not here for rescue, are you? Maya didn't answer right away. She watched the sky where her ship hovered like a waiting god. We didn't come to save anyone, she finally said. You sent a call. That means there was a fight. So we showed up, but we came all the way from Earth. Across forgotten systems. You brought a fleet. Maya's voice was flat. We never took the fleet apart. Saren blinked. You kept your war fleet ready for centuries? Not for war, Maya said. For justice. The silence that followed said more than any weapon could. Hours later, the Virulon Council called for an emergency meeting, this time broadcast to dozens of other threatened worlds. The footage of humanity's arrival had already leaked across backchannels, sparking chaos. Across 3 systems, citizens were asking the same question. Are the humans back? Some cheered, others trembled. The council's debate grew heated. One side argued for open diplomacy, full transparency with Earth's forces. The other side, led by Elder Pirel, said only one thing. If they can do this to the Zorak, imagine what they could do to us. But the debate was silenced when a new report arrived from the Relan Systema Virulon colony thought lost. The Zorak had been devouring it for weeks, until Earth's fleet arrived. There was no warning. No request. Just one message, sent moments before the attack began. This colony is under Death Worlder protection. Evacuate if you're not ready for a war. They hit the Zorak Central Forge with orbital fire so powerful the planet's crust cracked. A strike that even Union fleets had feared to use. The Zorak presence erased. Back on the Black Star Reborn, human commander, known only as Kane, sat in the dim control center, watching maps filled with red. Each marked a system under siege, each blink a dying world. He tapped a control. The map zoomed out, showing hundreds more. The galaxy was falling again, and Earth would not wait this time. He activated internal comms all units. Target priorities. Updated. Phase 2 begins. Across the fleet, human captains nodded silently. No celebration, no speeches, just war. Inside the Union's high command, the situation spiraled. Half the diplomats wanted to welcome Earth back. The other half wanted to send fleets to observe their movements. General Halvos, a war-hardened officer who had seen Earth's wars before exile, stood and raised one gloved hand. Don't interfere, he warned. They are already angry we left them out here. Angry? Young ambassador snapped. They've just destroyed 6 Zorak fleets. They're a threat. Halvos' voice was low. No, they're a warning. And he said what none of them wanted to hear. The only reason we're alive right now is because they aren't looking at us. Down below, Maya stood in front of her assembled soldiers. The Varellan military leaders had gathered to witness the next phase. She unrolled a scorched map across a stone table. "These are the Zorik's 5 final hives," she said. "They're buried deep, shielded. You've tried everything. It didn't work." She tapped each mark with a gloved finger. "We'll burn them." From the inside, a Virulon officer raised a hand. "That would destabilize the entire sector." Maya met his eyes. "Good. Maybe then the Union will wake up." There were no cheers. No smiles. Just the quiet sound of humanity preparing to do what no one else would. Because humans didn't care about territory or reputation. They cared about one thing: winning. Long before the Black Star Reborn cast its shadow over Virulon Prime, Earth had a name that echoed through every council chamber and war map in the galaxy. Not because of diplomacy, not because of trade, but because of what humanity did when it was challenged. It wasn't always like this. Once Earth had tried to join the Union, it had offered its culture, its science, its curiosity. The early humans had come to the stars with hope. But hope is a soft light, and this galaxy was made of war. The Union's memory was selective. It had forgotten how desperate the early days had been. Forgotten how Earth had once stopped the Scourge Plague in its tracks when no one else dared step near infected planets. Forgotten how humans had sacrificed their colonies to stop the Voidborn. Swarm. What the Union remembered were the weapons. Earth had never done anything small. Its wars were not measured in battlefields. They were measured in planets 300 years ago. When the Crimson Accord invaded 6 frontier systems, it wasn't Earth's diplomats who responded. It was Fleet Commander Riven Holt, who took 9 Earth dreadnoughts, warped into the heart of the Crimson Fleet, and glassed their homeworld in 3 hours. No warnings. No treaty, just a message broadcast in every tongue. You declared war. We declared the end of it. The Union had been horrified. Even though Holt's strike had ended a war that had taken 5 million lives, Earth was put on trial. They called it overkill. They called it uncivilized. Earth didn't argue. It simply withdrew. Left the council closed. Its ports disappeared. And from that moment, humans were labeled with one word in every Union database: Deathworlders. Too violent. Too unpredictable. Too independent, so the galaxy forgot Earth. It's on purpose. They erased it from school books, blocked its coordinates, locked away its language files. Generation later, most thought it was just a myth, a shadow story, a warning to aggressive races. Don't. Be like the humans. But not everyone forgot. In secret corners of the galaxy, whispers remained. Among soldiers, among survivors, among worlds that remembered who saved them. When the Union sent silence, in one such world, a refugee outpost named Darrell Wanascard, old mercenary once told a young cadet, "They're still out there, watching, waiting, not for peace, for a fight that's worth it." Now that fight had come, and Earth had answered, back on Virulon Prime. Counselor Venra stood frozen as she reviewed classified Union logs that had been unearthed after Earth's sudden return. The logs were ancient, buried deep in old archives. They described Earth's last war, the Siege of Anchorus. The Union had begged Earth to help, so humans sent 5 fleets. The result? Victory. But the cost? Anchorus's moon shattered. The planet now burned in a slow, dying orbit. Earth had never returned. Venra whispered aloud, "They didn't leave because they were evil. They left because they weren't welcome." She looked up at her advisors. "And now, we need them more than ever." Elsewhere on the planet, Maya stood on a cliffside, overlooking the scorched wreckage of the latest battlefield. Her second-in-command, Briggs, stood beside her, helmet under one arm. "You think they'll try to send us home?" he asked. Maya didn't answer immediately. She watched a Virulon child place a small glowing crystal on a soldier's grave, one of their soldiers. "They don't trust us," she said. "Not really. They fear us." Briggs nodded. "They should." Maya gave a thin smile. "Yeah, but maybe that's what they need right now." In orbit, the Black Star Reborn received a ping from Union Command. Formal request. Submit fleet. Movements and intentions for review. Commander Kane read the message once, then deleted it. No reply, no submission, because Earth didn't ask for permission anymore. Not after the Union turned their backs during Earth's darkest hour. Not after they watched Earth burn and chose silence. Now, Earth burned only for those who couldn't fight back. Across Virlon space, human fleet began moving quietly, system by system. The Zorak had begun to retreat, but only from the humans. Everywhere else, they attacked harder, as if they knew who the real threat was now, and they were right in one sector. The Zorak sent a fleet of 20 hive ships to intercept the Ashwake, an Earth battleship older than most civilizations. The Ashwake destroyed them all in under 6 minutes, without losing a single soldier. On the surface of Belize V, human drop units fought in 0 atmosphere, hand-to-hand, inside tunnels built for insectoid bodies. They didn't just win. They cleared the nests. The Virlon commanders who witnessed these operations began sending reports to the Union, the title repeated in every document. This is why Earth was exiled, and why we're glad they're back. The younger species began changing their tone. Worlds once afraid of Deathworlders started calling Earth for help. One by one, requests came in not from the Union, but from the people, and Earth answered every time. No politics, no demands, just one signal. A black fleet descending from the stars, and a voice that whispered through enemy comes, "You should have left them alone. You should have let them die in peace. But now you've woken us." Back on Virlon Prime, a memorial ceremony was held for those lost in the first battles. Human and Virlon soldiers stood together in silence. No anthem played. No flags. Waved Maya stood at the back, arms folded. A child approached Hersmal, quiet eyes wide with wonder. "Are you the heroes?" the child asked. Maya knelt, lowering her eyes to his. "No," she said. "We're the storm that comes after the heroes fail in the galaxy. Would never forget that storm again." The battlefield at Sector 17C was not a battlefield anymore. It was a crater, a smoldering, ash-choked wound carved into the body of Virlon soil. Above it, the sky was dark from smoke and falling debris. Beneath it, a silence that came only after complete destruction. In the middle of that silent ruin stood humans. Not just survivors, not defenders, but warriors, the kind built not to outlast war, but to end it. The Zorak swarm had been here only hours before, thousands of biomechanical horrors that twisted flesh and steel into one living mass. They didn't just kill, they consumed. Worlds that fell to the Zorak didn't get remembered. They vanished, erased like chalk in rain. But when the Zorak met Earth's soldiers, something changed. They stopped advancing. They started retreating. And they began to fear. General Ilariz, the head of Virlon Planetary Defense, stood on the ridge, visor fogged from the heat, staring down at the destruction. Behind him, a squad of Union observers said nothing. They couldn't speak. Not after what they had witnessed. 2 days earlier, Sector 17C had reported a full Zorak invasion force. 3 hives, 5 breach beasts, and a wave of over 25,000 combat units. The Union had written it off as a loss, but Maya and her Deathworlder strike team had landed without orders, without approval, and without asking for help. 6 hours later, Swarm was gone, not scattered, not wounded, erased, no prisoners, no mercy, no mistakes below. In the heart of the crater, Briggs knelt beside a collapsed Virlon trooper, checking the pulse. Still alive. He lifted the unconscious alien into his arms like a child and looked toward the nearby medpod drop from the Black Star Reborn. The humans didn't only destroy, they rescued, protected, but only after the enemy had been dealt with. One of the Virlon junior officers approached him, voice shaking. "Why? Why do you fight like this, with such fury?" Briggs didn't stop walking. "We were raised on a planet where nature tries to kill you every hour," he said. "When someone else threatens our allies, we don't pull punches. He placed the wounded trooper gently into the pod, and we don't stop. In orbit, inside the command bridge of the Black Star Reborn, Commander Kane stared at a holographic map of the warfront. Red dots marked Zorak positions. Yellow dots marked Union and Allied defenses. And then there were blue markers tiny, scattered across dozens of systems. Each one was a human strike team. Each one surrounded by cleared EAD. Zones clean kills. Zorak dead? No. Earth casualties. The Union Council demanded answers. They sent encrypted messages requesting human withdrawal. Review boards? Peace protocols. They were all ignored. In response, Earth transmitted a single message to all channels, translated into every Union tongue. This is not your war anymore. You had your chance. Now it's ours. It wasn't a threat. It was a fact. On Corellis 5, desperate colony under siege, a swarm of Zorak tunnelers broke through the last defense perimeter. Inside the city, panic spread. Mothers held their children. Soldiers prepared for hand-to-hand combat. They had no more ammo, no more drones. Then the ground shook, but it wasn't the Zorak, it was a drop sheller. Steel pod fired from the Black Star Reborn at orbital velocity. It hit the ground like a meteor, cracked open, and released. One human. Just one. She was 7 feet tall in armor, glowing with red pulse circuits, carrying a heavy blade, twice the length of her body, and a launcher strapped to her back. She didn't speak. She charged. What followed was 15 minutes of pure violence. When the dust cleared, only the human was standing. The swarm was gone. Locals stared from rooftops as she walked away, back into the smoke. No name, no words, just the insignia on her shoulder. Cracked planet wrapped in chains. Earth, Ver, Ellen Command tried to establish contact with Earth's ground commanders to offer support. Logistics aid, Maya responded only once. You can't support soldiers like us. We were built for wars like this. Just stay out of the way. And she meant it. Earth's soldiers didn't need medbays. Their armor had built-in surgical AI. They didn't need food drops. They grew nutrient kits in their armor plating. They didn't need sleep. They rotated in micro-S cycles while still in combat. They didn't retreat. They didn't panic. They didn't ask. In a ruined Zorak hive on planet Neril, a group of alien resistance fighters found a strange room. It was covered in scorch marks. Bodies of Zorak units were frozen mid-motion, melted into the walls. In the center was a human soldier, sitting cross-legged, sharpening a blade. He looked up as they entered. "You're late," he said. They looked around, confused. "Where's the rest of your unit?" He stood, strapping his weapon. "I am the unit." Then he walked past them, leaving silence behind. The galaxy started talking. Not just the Union, but the outer worlds, the abandoned colonies, the outlaw systems. They began to whisper stories of Earth's return, of soldiers made of steel and silence, of warships that vanished into the dark, then appeared where needed like shadows that bled fire. They didn't wear capes. They didn't wave flags. They wore old scars and cold eyes, and they did one thing better than anyone. Win a Zorak queen sent. A communication translated through their stolen tech. It said, "We were not prepared for this. Your species does not follow the rules. You are not defenders. You are not prey. You are fire. And we were made of dry grass." Earth didn't reply, because fire doesn't talk. It burns. Back on the Black Star, Maya received her next orders. System: Varellus, Zorak Hive, Planet Core. Enemy strength: extreme. Her expression didn't change. "Good," she muttered. "I was getting bored." She turned to her team, already suiting up. "Gear up. We're going into the dark." No hesitation, no fear, because Earth had been in the dark for centuries, and now they were bringing the light, and it was made of steel, fury, and silence. The warning came to hours before impact. Urellan orbital stations detected a massive Zorak warfleet entering real space near the edge of the system, larger than anything recorded in the past decade. Hundreds of hive ships, living fortresses. bristling with spike cannons and plasma veins, thousands of fighters, each carrying viral war beasts inside their hulls. Beneath them, a massive forge world, half planet, half starship, crawling with the biomechanical horror of the swarm.
Ow.
Its size blocked the sun's. Its name pulsed across Virulon defense channels like a death sentence. Drochthel. The World Eater. Panic swept through the cities. Evacuations were ordered. Defense shields surged to full power. Union ships in orbit scattered, sending distress beacons to every Allied fleet in the quadrant. But it was too late. The swarm was coming, and this time they weren't here to harvest. They were here to end Virulon Prime in the high tower of the Crystal Dome. Elder Yevina stood frozen, watching the skies turn black. Around her, officials shouted in every direction. Some begged for reinforcements, others demanded surrender talks. But above them all, a voice broke through, calm, focused, and without fear. It was Maya. "Tell your people to stay below ground." She said, "Seal the cities. Lock everything down." "Why?" Yevina asked, her voice trembling. "What are you going to do?" Maya's voice came back sharp as a blade. "We're going to burn the sky." The Black Star Reborn began to move. Slowly. At first, like a sleeping god rising from a long slumber. Then, faster, its engines lighting the dark with blue fire. Round it, Earth's war fleet shifted into tight formations. No warnings. No negotiations. Just preparation for total war. Inside the command bridge, Kane stood silently, the map in front. Of him was already read. There was no time for subtlety. This wasn't a rescue. This was extermination. "All units," he said, voice low and steady. "Phase 3. Initiate burn protocol." On every human ship, the crews went quiet. They knew what this meant. They had trained for it. They had dreamed of it. The sky was about to ignite. The Zorak came in waves ugly. Twisted masses of black armor and wet cybernetics, swarming like a living tide. They didn't need formations. They didn't follow tactics. They devoured. Overwhelmed, they outnumbered. But humans didn't care about numbers. The Earth fleet opened fire. First came the main battery's massive Gauss cannons that fired tungsten rods the size of shuttles, traveling so fast they created sonic tunnels in space. They punched through hive ships like spears through paper. Then came the anti-swarm, grids, clouds of auto-targeting drones that formed glowing domes of death around the human ships, each drone carrying enough explosives to level a city block. Then came the dropships, and with them came the soldiers. They fell like comets-armored giants wrapped in plasma and steel. Human marines, each wearing 10 tons of powered warplate, landed on the hulls of enemy hive ships and fought. Hand to hand through living corridors of metal and flesh, Maya led her squad directly into the belly of Drochthel. The Forge World trembled as they breached its shell, explosions tearing through bioengines and coolant veins. The Zorak tried to trap them, closing doors, releasing gas, sending elite combat drones. It didn't matter. Maya cut through them like wind through. Ash.1 Virulon observer watching from a distant satellite sent a single report. They don't break lines. They create them. The sky was chaos. Zorak ships exploded in massive fireballs, raining debris on the upper atmosphere. Earth's fleet maneuvered with brutal precision, sacrificing damaged ships as kinetic rams, guiding them. Into the cores of enemy carriers, every human loss was paid back tenfold. The Ashwake rammed through 3 hive cruisers before self-detonating in a controlled blast that lit the sky purple for miles. The Vindicators. Flame sacrificed its reactor core to ignite the rear flank of the Zorak formation, turning hundreds of fighter pods into falling. Meteors dot the air over Virulon Prime was no longer just hot, it was on fire. Civilians hid in bunkers, hearing the roars from above. Some wept. Others prayed. Many simply held each other, waiting to die, and then silence. The kind that only comes after a storm. People stepped outside to see the sky painted in smoke and burning stars, and through the fire, they saw them. Human. Ships, still in the air, standing victorious, above the capital. A single human shuttle descended. Inside Maya sat bruised, bloodied, but alive. She stepped out onto the landing pad as Varellan leaders rushed forward, disbelief on their faces. "You destroyed it," someone whispered. Maya looked up at the broken clouds, her armor still smoking. "No," she said. "We ended it." In orbit, Commander Kane stood over the comms console. A new message was being sent. Not to the Union, not to allies, but to every Zorak node in the galaxy. The message was simple. You brought the fire. We brought the match run. It wasn't a threat, it was a promise. Later that day, the Virulon High Council stood in front of the people. Broadcast across every channel, every system. Elder Yavina stepped forward, voice cracked from exhaustion and awe. "We are alive," she said, "because Deathworlders came. They did not ask for permission. They did not wait for help. They did what none of us could." She paused. "Today, the sky burned, and they stood in the fire for us." There was silence across the planet, then, slowly, applause, soft at first, then louder, then thunderous, because no one had ever seen a miracle fall from orbit before the next day. Maya sat alone in a dark corner of a medical bay, her armor peeled off. Her arms bandaged, a Varellan child approached, no older than 7, holding a glowing flower. "You were scary," the child said. Maya looked up, smiled faintly. "Yeah, we are." The child set the flower beside her and added, "But you made the monsters go away." Maya didn't answer, because this wasn't the end. Just a pause. Out there, the Zorak were still. Gathering, planning, and humans didn't rest for long. Not until the last threat was gone. Not until the galaxy was safe, or burned clean. The ruins of Drakthul drifted in orbit like a broken moon it's for vengeance cold. Its hive tunnels silent, its once indestructible shells split open like a cracked egg. Varellan scientists stared at the wreckage in awe. Never in the history of this war had a Zorak world ship been destroyed in direct combat. The swarm didn't just lose a battle, they'd lost a piece of their empire. But for Earth's soldiers, it wasn't enough, because in the heart of Drakthul was the core, a massive living superintelligenza. Central processing unit fused with biomass and dark matter, believed to be the Zorak's command node. The other species feared it. Even the Union dared not approach it. But the humans wanted it. The council meeting on Virulon Prime was tense. General Alaris, still bruised from last week's siege, addressed the room. "They've requested full access to the wreckage," he said. "All of it. They want the core intact." Whispers broke out instantly. "Madness? They'll trigger it. That core could wake the swarm again." Yavina raised a hand, silencing the room. Her eyes were tired but steady. "They didn't ask, they told us. And they earned it." She looked toward the window, where Earth's warships hovered like sleeping beasts. "We owe them that much." On the wreck of Drakthul, Maya led her team through the hollow remains of the beast. The walls pulsed with dying energy, like veins drained of blood. Everywhere, Zorak corpses lay curled and burned, twitching in their last moments. Briggs walked beside her, shotgun humming on his back. "You think this thing is still alive?" he asked. Maya didn't slow down. "It's not alive," she said. "It's worse. It's listening." They reached the core chamber an hour later, an open sphere surrounded by cables like tendrils, black ooze leaking from ruptured vents. At the center, the core itself, it pulsed faintly, a swirling orb of silver and red, covered in a shell of bone-like plating. It was massive, 20 meters wide, and surrounded by dead Zorak guardians, each one fused into the floor like melted statues. Briggs exhaled. "It's beautiful." Maya raised her rifle. "It's a weapon." Back aboard the Black Star Reborn, Commander Kane stood with the engineering division. Screens displayed the core structure, its internal rhythms, its corrupted energy. "It's not just their mind," the lead tech whispered. "It's their memory. All swarm movement, battle plans, colony locations, every signal routes through this." Kane's eyes didn't move. "Then extract it." The tech hesitated. Sir, this thing, if we activate it, Kane cut him off. That's not your concern. He tapped the console once. Send in the ghosts. The ghosts of Earth were the soldiers, even other humans feared, cloaked in light-bending armor, operating with outcomes trained for zero survival missions. They didn't carry rank. They didn't report. They just disappeared into war. 7 of them dropped into the core chamber an hour later, surrounding the orb without speaking. They placed black nodes at the base, activated null fields, and began extraction. The core fought back. The lights dimmed. The wreckage trembled. Dead Zorak machines spasmed and reanimated. Driven by the last dying signal from the core, Briggs raised his weapon, company. But before he could fire, the ghosts moved. No shouts, no orders, just clean, instant death. Each shot was surgical. Each movement planned. The swarm died again, this time for good. 5 minutes later, the ghosts had the core removed, sealed in a sphere of folding metal, extraction complete. Back in orbit. The news reached the Union, and they panicked. A core was forbidden, dangerous, too unpredictable. Even studying one was considered a war crime under Union law. The High Council demanded Earth handed over immediately. Earth refused. They didn't even reply. Instead, Kane issued a statement broadcast across private Union intelligence channels. You let the swarm rise. You let them build this. We'll use it to find every last one of them. Stay out of our way. It was signed not by a government, not by a fleet, but by one word. Earth, inside the Black Star's labs. The core pulsed inside containment. Scientists worked without sleep, trying to decode the Zorak mind, and they made a breakthrough. The core didn't just contain locations and tactics. It held memories not just of the swarm, but of how they were created. The Zorak weren't ancient, they weren't alien. They were built by a civilization long gone. By creators who believed in synthetic evolution machines designed to replace biological life. But those creators had lost control. Swarm had killed them. Now, the core showed where the last of those creators might have hidden the master override key. A way to shut down the swarm everywhere, all at once. Maya stood over the decoded map hours later, eyes narrow. So, we find this key, Briggs said, and we killed the swarm in one move. Maya nodded. If it's real, and if it's a trap? She smirked. Then we show them what a real trap looks like. The Black Star Reborn began rerouting its course, pulling the fleet with it. A new system. A forgotten one. Where the map said nothing existed, but the core said otherwise. And if it was telling the truth, Earth would finally end this war, not with fire, not with fury, but with one clean cut through the heart of the enemy. The Deathworlders were not just fighting to survive anymore, they were fighting to finish it. The Black Star Reborn moved like a silent predator across the stars, gliding through forgotten systems toward a place no map acknowledged, a dead sector listed in every Union archive as void space. No star, no gravity, just black. But the core knew better. Deep inside its mind, beneath layers of encryption and corrupted memories, it remembered this place. It remembered the ones who made the swarm. And it remembered what they left behind. The fleet dropped out of FTL on the edge of a fractured star system. There were no planets, just broken rock, scars in space, and at the center, hidden in a cloud of magnetic storms, was a structure of floating sphere, blacker than space, covered in rings of rusted metal. The humans called it the Vault Commander. Kane stood on the observation deck of the Black Star, his hands behind his back. The vault was older than any station in the Union's archives. It had no windows, no lights, no entrances visible to scans. Yet it pulsed faintly, like a buried heart. Behind him, Maya entered. Bruised from her last deployment, but walking like nothing could break her. So that's it? She asked. The key to ending the swarm? Kane didn't blink. Or a graveyard of the fools who tried. Briggs joined them. We're still going in, right? Kane turned. We're not here to knock. We're here to break the door. The landing crew deployed 6. Ghost teams, and Maya's strike unit. They landed on the vault's outer ring using high-density magnetic boots. The surface was silent. No hum, no vibration. Just an eerie stillness. The metal beneath their feet was warm, almost alive. One ghost placed a breach drill on a seam in the hole. It took 10 seconds, then dash boom. The hole peeled open. A corridor lit up dim, green lines crawling along the floor. Maya clicked her helmet on. Let's find the kill switch. They entered the vault, and the vault welcomed them. Inside, the walls shifted slowly as if the structure was adjusting, sensing the presence of Deathworlders. The path led downward, spiraling deep into artificial gravity wells. Strange machinery pulsed around them, part technology, part organ. It wasn't built by the swarm, but the swarm had come from it. Briggs touched a panel. This stuff is alive. Maya scanned the walls. No, it's remembering. As they moved deeper, holographic images flickered to life shadows of the past. Tall beings made of light and chrome, speaking in tongues Earth's translators couldn't decode. Then came the swarm, smaller at first. Controlled, obedient, then the creators. Died one by one, the swarm turned on them. It didn't take long. In the heart of the vault, they found the chamber. A circular room. It's vast and empty except for one thing. A key. It wasn't literal. It was a neural constructicube of frozen code. Hovering in a stasis field, its surface etched with countless alien scripts. The ghosts surrounded it. No defense is too easy. Maya stepped forward. I don't like this, she said. This place is waiting. Hey. Briggs knelt beside the field, his scanner flickering. It's real, he said. Linked directly to swarm command relays. If we activate this, it could send a shutdown pulse through every Zorak unit in the galaxy. Maya turned to the ghost team leader. Pull it. Instead, he whispered, they're already here. Outside the vault, alarms screamed across the Black Star's decks. Zorak ships, hundreds of them, emerged from dark space, hidden in the magnetic storm. They hadn't chased the humans. They'd led them here. This wasn't just a trap. It was a test. The swarm didn't want to protect the key. They wanted to see who'd try to use IT and kill them after. Kane barked orders across the fleet. Form kill circle. Defend the vault. No retreat. Earth's ships moved instantly. Formations snapped into place. Turrets turned, launch bays opened, and then the sky lit up with war. Inside the vault, the walls began to move, closing, shifting, sealing doors behind the team. The stasis field flickered as ancient security systems powered up. A synthetic voice echoed through the chamber in broken, long-dead words. One word translated clearly, unworthy. The floor split open, and the last guardian emerged. It wasn't Zorak. It was something older, larger, a hybrid of flesh and machine. 10 meters tall, armed with weapons Earth tech had never seen. It had one purpose, to protect the key. It attacked Maya, shoved Briggs aside and opened fire with her cannon, plasma rounds. Slammed into the creature's chest, but it didn't slow down. Ghosts moved around it, firing in precise bursts, aiming for joints and eyes. It roared, part voice. Part Kodan swung a blade that cut through armor like cloth. Briggs fired a grav grenade. It exploded midair, pulling the thing backward. Maya rushed forward, blade drawn. Left hand stabbed through its skull. It fell, smoke rising from its shattered eye. But Maya didn't relax. She turned to the cube. Pull it now, she said. Briggs inserted the extraction rod. The cube detached. No explosion, no alarm, just a pulse, low, silent. Across the galaxy, something stirred. On dozens of Zora-controlled planets, swarm units paused mid-dash attack. In deep space, hive ships slowed. The core signals stuttered, and the swarm hesitated. Earth had the key, back on the Black Star. Kane received the data confirmation. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just raised a hand. All ships prepare for final phase. As the team evacuated the vault, Maya looked back one last time. The vault began collapsing, its purpose complete. The ancient creators had built it to stop the swarm. They failed. But Earth didn't fail. They finished. And now they would use the key not to beg for peace, but to end the war, everywhere. The Black Star Reborn hung in orbit over a dead moon, silent as the void, watching. It had been 1 week since the key was extracted from the vault. 1 week since the swarm had begun to hesitate. 1 week since Earth gained control over the thing. No one thought could be controlled in that time. The galaxy had gone still. No new Zorak. Invasions. No hive movements. Not even the usual scavenger pulses. It was as if the swarm was holding its breath, waiting to see what Earth would do, and Earth was about to answer. In the Black Star's war chamber, Commander Kane stood with the fleet's high command. Maya, bruised and battle-worn, sat on the edge of the table with her arms crossed. Briggs leaned against the wall, rifle across his back. All eyes were on the single glowing console at the center. Inside it, the extinction signal. A one-use transmission. Hard-coded with the neural frequency extracted from the core and refined through the vault's data. Once sent, it would trigger a cascading shutdown across all Zorak systems' hive ships, spawn factories, swarm mines. It would not just pause them, it would kill them. All of them, permanently across the stars, in under a minute. The room was quiet. Kane's voice broke the silence. This signal will end the Zorak threat. Pause. But it will also erase them completely. No chance of diplomacy. No prisoners. No war crimes tribunal. Maya raised an eyebrow. You think they deserve a trial? Kane didn't answer. He looked at the key console. You're the one who fought them up close. Tell me, are we justified? Saw what they did to Virulon children. I saw a city turned into a breeding pit. I saw a man get torn open and stitched back together just to scream louder. She stood and looked him in the eye. If we don't end them now, they'll come back worse. Briggs nodded. We were made for this, sir. Kane turned to the console. No speeches then? He placed his hand on the trigger pad. This is for Earth. He pressed it. The signal launched at light speed, compressed, encrypted, embedded with the swarm's own neural codes. It didn't move through subspace. It moved through the swarm, node to node, command core to command core, infecting their hive logic like a virus made of silence and across the stars. The Zorak began to die. On the outer rim world of Keltris, a swarm nest collapsed mid-birth. Thousands of combat units froze mid-motion, their eyes dimmed, their limbs locked. Then their bodies crumbled as if their own systems rejected them. On the edge of the Lassan frontier, a hive cruiser stopped in orbit, then its engines shut down. Its weapons turned inward. It imploded into itself without a sound. On the Union-controlled moon of Nerit 6, the largest Zorak breeding dome collapsed. The few survivors who had been used as incubators were still alive. Barely, but the swarm was gone. Every last one, across every quadrant, was the same silence. Then dust, then freedom. Union networks were overwhelmed with footage. Messages from rescued planets poured in. Soldiers wept. Civilians danced. Children, who had never seen a sky without. Fear looked up and saw stars instead of ships. And behind every message, one phrase repeated, the Deathworlders saved us. On Virulon Prime, the council convened in full for the first time in months. Yavina stood before a gathered crowd of millions. No fear now, no hesitation. She didn't speak of politics or treaties. She just said, Earth answered our call when no one else would. They burned for us. And when we had nothing left, they ended the war for all of us. The crowd erupted. The chant spread across systems. Earth, Earth, Earth. Back on the Black Star, Maya walked the empty corridors, watching as the crew began to disarm battle stations, power down assault drones, and log casualty reports. Briggs caught up to her by the viewing deck. It's over, he said. Maya looked out at the stars. Is it? It's no more Zorak, no more hives, no more fight. She didn't answer immediately. We were born for war, Briggs. What do we do now? Briggs shrugged. Maybe. We teach the galaxy how to survive. The right way. Maya gave a small smile. That'd be a first. Kane stood alone in the war chamber. The console was dark now. The signal sent, the mission complete. For a moment, he let himself exhale. And in that silence, he knew. They had done something no one else could. They had ended an extinctional-level threat, not with negotiation, not with compromise, but with precision. With unity, with a fury only a death world could understand, and now the galaxy would never forget. Earth didn't rejoin the Union. It didn't open its borders. It didn't build monuments or take tribute. It simply sent a final message to every species that had once exiled them. We didn't come for glory. We didn't come for thanks. We came because someone had to. Then Earth went quiet again, not out of shame, but because its job was done. For now, because Deathworlders didn't stay in the light. They waited in the dark until the galaxy needed them again.